Welcome back to Missing. I am Tim here today with Lance. Lance, how's it going today?
It is going great today, Tim. Thank you so much for asking. I hope all the listeners are doing well. This conversation that we have is truly moving. You know, once in a while, every few months, we have guests that come on this show that have that real heartbreaking story. They have that iconic, and I don't say that in a good way, they have that iconic true crime story that everyone's got eyeballs on, everyone cares about. We're truly humbled. We are truly honored to have family members who are so closely connected to these tragedies come on and just bare their souls and really talk about what's going on, not only with the crime, but what's going on with all of the attention that these tragedies create. And I think everyone's going to enjoy this. I think people are going to take a lot out of this conversation. But Tim, how are you today?
I'm doing well over here. Thanks a lot for asking. And yes, in this conversation, Lance, we speak with the mom of Liberty German, that's Carrie Timmons. And we also speak with Jane Latman. And they both worked on this new Hulu docuseries called Capturing Their Killer, The Girls on the High Bridge. And so it is an emotional conversation because obviously Liberty German was one of the victims who was murdered on February 13th, 2017. And she was just 14 years old, Lance. And of course, most people know that there was a video of this bridge guy who was considered to be their killer that Liberty took with her phone moments before they were murdered. And so we do get into that a little bit in this conversation. And yeah, it's a good documentary. And this is an emotional conversation for sure.
Definitely is. The documentary is of high quality. And Jane, who joins us with Carrie, is the executive producer. So Jane has her own company. It's called Twist. It's part of Wheelhouse Entertainment. And I just thought it was so cool and progressive to have the executive producer of one of these shows on this interview with the mother of one of the victims. We've never seen that happen. We've seen people who've worked together on some level, but never a family member as closely connected as a mother and the executive producer. And it was really eye-opening to see how each one of them contributed to not only this conversation, but to the documentary. And you could just see it in Jane's expressions as Carrie was talking, how much it affected her too. She's telling this like incredibly painful story that has so many layers. They get into Richard Allen, who is the perpetrator of the murders. They get into his family, his wife, and you could just tell like how each one of them felt about that moment, about how to handle the reality that Richard Allen's wife wasn't coming to terms with the fact that he was found guilty of this, that he did this, that he killed these two girls. And I just thought it was incredibly eye-opening and incredibly, like I said before, progressive that these two individuals were able to work together on this and then do interviews. Again, we've never seen that. And good on Jane for, she's got her own company. She started it after she had a long career working for other production companies, and this was the first one out of the gate for her. And she knocked it out of the park. Her team knocked it out of the park. So congrats to her, and just not only for the docuseries, but for being so open to continuing the work with the family.
Absolutely. Yeah, so we hope you enjoy this conversation, and we hope you check out the docuseries on Hulu. It is 3 episodes, and it really is quite interesting. Richard Allen's wife does speak. She does not believe that he did it, which is, pretty interesting. And we have to ask Carrie about that in the conversation because it's kind of wild, I guess. But, denial is not just a river in Egypt, Lance.
Well said.
All right, everyone. Please follow us on social media at Missing CSM, and we will be back later this week with another new episode. Thanks a lot for listening. Welcome to the podcast, Carrie Timmons and Jane Latman. How are you both doing today?
Well, thank you for having me.
Good, thanks.
It's amazing having both of you on the show, and you both have such these incredible stories to tell. Carrie, thank you so much for joining us. And Jane, thank you so much for joining us and bringing this incredible, important story to the show. But Carrie, if you want to start, and then maybe Jane, if you just want to introduce yourselves to the listeners, let them know a little bit about your background and what brings you here.
My name is Carrie Timmons. I am Liberty German's mother. Just here to kind of talk about the case and the trial.
I'm Jane Latman, and I'm president of Twist under Wheelhouse Entertainment, a production company. And I was one of the 3 executive producers on this series.
Great. And yeah, this docuseries was just released on Hulu, and we just caught up with it, and it's really well done. I guess my first question here is, Carrie, what is it like, participating in a series like this?
These things are always very nerve-wracking for me, but the important thing is to get the story out, and for people to know our girls as our girls and not just victims of this horrendous crime. So sometimes it can be liberating, but it's also very, very stressful.
Yeah, I can imagine. I mean, just being approached by various companies that must have, like production companies, that must have been a thing that happened numerous times, especially, when new news comes out. I'm sure you had waves of people reaching out. How do you even process that? Like, how do you prioritize a response to people who are coming to you saying, we'd like to tell your story?
It's actually very difficult. I have upset people. I have hurt friends' feelings because I won't talk about it, or I won't do an interview. I have known Hannah now for 8 years, and she's one of the executive producers. I met her very early on, and she has been very hands-on involved with trying to keep the story in the news and to keep productions like this going. So it was easier for me I had kind of agreed to do something with her before, and I felt very comfortable with her. So for this particular story, it was Hannah. I mean, that's what got me to do this particular one. But yeah,
great.
It's hard.
Hannah is the one that came to me and said, the trial's about to happen. There will be a verdict. This is the time to tell this story. Let's partner up. And I remembered this story, of course. I remembered this story, and I remembered Libby and Abby. So that was the genesis of Twist having the project as well.
And Jane, you actually smiled and nodded when Carrie first mentioned Hannah. Is it okay to get a little background on Hannah? Like, who knows Hannah, and how did she become so instrumental?
Well, I mean, I think Carrie knows Hannah better than I do, but I knew Hannah from when I was on the network side and was pitched a couple projects by her. But she comes from the scripted writing and show running world. But she did an unscripted project, pretty soon after this tragedy, and she couldn't let go of the case. Like Carrie said, she wanted to keep it in the news. It just struck a nerve, as it has with everybody. I mean, with this country and the globe. So yeah, so when I got the call, do you want to hear about a story and more about it and timing? I was like, yeah, Hannah, I remember you. Let's do it. And she was instrumental, she and Grace Miller, the showrunner, were just instrumental in the field and the relationships, building relationships with all the contributors.
Yeah, there's certainly a lot of contributors in the show. It's really well done, and certainly a shocking kind of a shocking part is hearing from Richard Allen's wife. Mm-hmm. Now, how did that come to be that you were able to get her in the docuseries?
Well, what we set out to do was to tell a 360, was to tell as much of this story from the people who it affected the most. People like Carrie, who hadn't spoken a lot by choice or hadn't also been under a gag order for a long time. We got an introduction to Kathy, and our showrunner worked with her, built trust. And I think our approach, our approach was probably what made her want to talk. She said she wanted to talk one time. Nobody had heard her part of the story. And, I'm sure it can't be easy for Carrie and the other families to hear her story. I don't know what that feels like. And that was also like a concern. But it was also important, again, to just try to get all the voices. And I guess I was thinking a lot about the ripple effects of crime. And I go like that because, like a stone falling in a lake. And you can't say it didn't affect her. You can say whatever you want, depending on whatever. But it was, I think it's interesting to see. I mean, like Mike Thomas is somebody in it. He was one of the investigators who was on the scene early on, and he said the case still haunts him. So it's just, and he's carrying that with him. And I hope that, when I think about Mike Thomas, that also helps keep Libby and Abby's memories alive. This case affected so many people. Obviously, Carrie and the families first and foremost.
And what was the decision in how many episodes this is going to be and the length of each episode? And I'm gonna explain why I'm asking this question, and it goes to kind of what Tim was saying and to your answer. It is probably the best docuseries about this story that I think I've seen. It's easily the most responsible one, and the one that did the 360 approach, like you said, which I didn't even think of that until you said, we wanted to do a 360 approach. So that's like this huge, like all-encompassing approach, right? You want to be able to cover everything. So again, back to my question, how did you manage to do that with the episode durations and the amount of episodes?
I mean, truthfully, a lot of that is what ABC News Studios needed. But it was a collaboration with them talking about what the length should be. It easily could have been 4 or 5, but I think we set out for 3. It sort of fit into the 3 chapters, what happened, the investigation, and then the trial. But as we went along, we all thought it could be more. We had to leave a lot out. I know there are people, on social media saying, why didn't they do this? Why didn't they? I mean, there's so much to this story, but at the end of the day, that's what we had set out to do. And it was more important to get it done now than to say, like, let's do another episode.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I think that some of the shows that are out there, especially early on, like in the early days of true crime docuseries, there'd be so much filler that you'd start to lose track of what was important in the storytelling. You'd start to lose the thread. So that's kind of why I was asking, is because with having these 3, packed episodes, you never lose track of the thread here. And it's impressive to see. And it's really cool to hear, like, oh, we collaborated with the ABC and, we all talked about it, instead of having one entity just be like, nope, this is going to be 4 episodes and you got to work in a plug for another one of our shows that's going to be aired.
No, they were great partners.
Cool.
Honestly, like, also just for our approach of wanting, no agenda. Like, we want to tell as complete a story as we can,
Absolutely. And Carrie, can you tell us a little bit about Libby?
Libby was my second daughter. So she's second of 4 daughters. A great big sister, but also, that annoying little sister to Kelsey when she was young, when they were younger. Always, she always wanted to be like Kelsey. She was Kelsey's little shadow. And then her younger sisters were her shadow, She's just very kind, funny, artistic, talented. She's always on the go, always wanted to do things. So very full of life for it to have been cut so short like it was. I mean, she really could have done anything and would have changed the world in so many ways. It's kind of cool to see that she can still touch people's lives after this, and people are still learning, and she's still helping people from the other side, kind of, and that was something that was very interesting to her. She was very into true crime and kind of wanted to work in law enforcement. So it's crazy, the parallels, honestly, that her life became, one of the episodes of Criminal Minds that she loved to watch so much. We just miss her. Like, we miss her a lot every single day.
We spoke with Kelsey several years ago on our podcast and met her in person as well at CrimeCon. Just wondering how she's doing.
She's doing good. She's like we all are, trying to heal and, live life. She's got her own little family now, and really excited to see them next weekend. Um, she's doing big things, you know.
That must have been, and I'm trying to articulate this. How was that kind of strength instilled in your daughters? Like, what kind of upbringing did you intend for them? Because after a tragedy like this, you're saying, Libby she's got her little family now, and she's doing things, and you're even taking I love the outlook of how this is actually still helping people. So I'm just curious, like, how did you get that frame of mind?
It's not always my frame of mind. Some days are worse than others. But I feel very strongly that myself and my girls are here on this earth and living the life that Libby couldn't, or was unable to. And I feel like in order to make her proud, we kind of have to live for her, in her memory. Do things like I've got her next youngest sister is about to go to school to study forensic biology. And she wants to be able to work on crime scenes and help families get answers quicker. Maybe not some of the things happen with this case, that hopefully to not have some of the same things happen again. And she has that weird kind of experience. She was 11 years old when this happened, almost 11. She turned 11 3 days later. But she's kind of grown up around this, and where we've all kind of always been like I don't want to say a true crime family, but we've all been into, the crime shows, like the primetime shows like CSI and things like that. So it kind of just furthered that interest, and my girls kind of want to, in order to make Libby, everybody wants to make Libby proud. We want her to be happy and to see that we can grow through this tragedy. So that's also, not only has that helped other people, not only has it helped her sisters, it also helps other people to, maybe think twice before doing certain things.
Yeah, I think I misspoke. I'm sorry. I definitely misspoke and said that you said Libby had a family. I'm so sorry. I didn't realize I misspoke. That was not intentional.
Well, I feel Libby's presence very, very much, especially around her nieces, like she's there. Yeah.
And what does it mean to you and your family that Libby filmed the bridge video?
I couldn't be more proud. At the time, I don't know what was going through her mind. I don't know. I would like to, I feel like she thought something was off, and she just needed to capture it, whether it was going to be something she was going to show, her family later and kind of be like, hey, there's this creepy guy hanging out around the bridge, or if she really knew that what was coming and she wanted to be able to catch the guy. I don't know, but something fell off. Something she recorded for a reason. She knew what she was doing, and we're so lucky that she did. I don't know where we would have been if she hadn't, honestly. So very, very thankful that she did. Very proud of her that she had. I don't know, as an adult, that I would have had been in the right frame of mind to been able to do that myself. So it's astonishingly proud that she even considered doing that and then was able to actually catch their killer.
And we'll be right back after a quick word from our sponsors.
Thanks to our sponsors, and now we're back to the program. And how frustrating was it to know that investigators actually had information about Alan being on the bridge in that area that day, but the information, I guess, was misfiled for a while?
I can't really say that frustrating is the word I would use, but that is something that still bothers me to this day. Things happen. There was a lot of information coming in, a lot of tips, it was a lot, and I get that. I just, I cannot wrap my head around having a tip that literally put the one and only person on the bridge at that time, having that tip, taking that interview, and that tip never going anywhere. Frustrating is an understatement for sure, but I still wonder. I think those are the things that, like, how does that happen? And we'll never know. I mean, human error, people make mistakes, it happens. I get it. Like, I can't be I'm thankful that the tip was found. I'll just leave it at that.
And what's your communication like now as compared to in the early days with law enforcement?
Not really much different, honestly. There were a few members of law enforcement that did make it a point to reach out to me after I made a big stink about it. But if I felt that I needed to talk to someone, I feel like I would probably they would speak to me, but we're not friends by any means, they're not calling to check up on me, but there's not, if there was an update to the case, if something happened, something changed, I'm sure someone would reach out. Now, as far as the court system, the Attorney General's office, things like that, with appeals and with his recent transfer and things like that, I've been made aware. So maybe a little bit more in the loop, so to speak, than before. Yeah.
Would you have preferred to have been in the loop before, or do you think that would have been just too much information?
So there's two sides to that, honestly. Being more informed and updated would have been helpful, but at the same time, I don't know how to say this. 8 years later, obviously, a lot of us were learning information that we'd never heard throughout this case. Some of those things, I feel like, as Libby's mother, as being as close to this case as we were, I feel like we should have known some of these things. Now, I get that there are reasons law enforcement does what they do. And in an open investigation, it's hard to give some details. However, I do believe that they could have kept us a little bit better informed, so that 8 years later, when we were finally at trial, we weren't completely shocked by some of the things that we were finding out.
And Jane, can you tell us about how the production handled the suspect, Richard Allen, but looking at the other suspects in the case as well?
Sure. I mean, I think comes back to the 360. We were trying just to present the facts, and the facts that could be verified with, legal records. And that's sort of how we handled it, if that answers your question.
Sure. Yeah. Was it surprising to anyone else how many people seemed like they were headed towards being guilty at first? I mean, I know I'm impacted by watching the docuseries and didn't live it day to day like you, Carrie, and Jane, but it just seems like there were several good suspects in the case. Yeah.
I think what was surprising was when you look at the other suspects who were investigated, and so it just shows how close they were and how interconnected they were to Abby and Libby, or to the crime. And it was like, wow, like that is a lot of coincidence, like at the end of the day, for a community that's that small.
Right. So this community has often been described as close knit and, tight. And was there any pushback from anybody in the community as you went in to do this production?
Yeah, I think that it was how it presented itself was a protectiveness of Libby and Abby, and a protectiveness where it was like people would not participate unless the families were on board. And that was like fair enough. And that was impressive.
Yeah, that is incredibly impressive, because this story has become so prevalent in all genres all over the world now. So it's really cool to hear that where it came from in that community, they're still standing by their roots and still standing by the having a moral compass, at least, in saying if the family's not involved, then we're not involved. So that's cool. That's pretty amazing. And Carrie, how are you doing in your community now? How much what type of support are you receiving?
We have a pretty big family. I made a lot of new friends throughout this entire ordeal. I feel like Libby put some special people in my path in order to help get me through this. I have been very lucky with a lot of supporters, people I don't even know reaching out, donating money to help me get back and forth, and even just, well-wishers, people thinking of you, praying for you. We have gained so much as far as an extended family throughout this case, and the community that I've got friends that will last a lifetime, people that I'm very thankful for. It's a little different being 250 miles away, but I still have a lot of people.
Yeah, I'm sure you keep in touch with them too. And these are people that have entered into your life after this has happened.
Yes, a lot of people.
Yeah.
It's kind of an inspirational, to know that there are so many people out there. I had no idea that the true crime nation was so big, the family, but I've been lucky to meet some really cool people.
Yeah, I mean, Tim and I try to keep our circle of true crime genre, content creators, storytellers, podcasters. We have our circle of people who it just, seems to grow every year.
Yes.
Every time, and we do like a crime con or something like that, we have someone else who we are, kind of drawn to. And I'm just curious if that's something that happened with you and family members of other victims. Have you been in contact with anybody who's suffered the same type of tragedy or similar, as sort of a support group?
I kind of stay away from that kind of stuff, honestly. I mean, I've met people. I'm not as involved in a lot of that stuff. I've met a lot of people that I don't want to say that I've not met anybody, because sometimes my memory's not the best. I haven't done as many events and interviews and go, like I went to CrimeCon once, but I've not been as involved on that side of things and publicly. So the people that I have met have mostly just been, your average people that just are caring individuals, and the girls caught their attention, and a lot of moms that just want to share love because they can't imagine being in my shoes, and I wouldn't want them to. Yeah, I've been lucky to meet a lot of good people.
Yeah, and the connection with other family members from other families that have experienced something similar, like I'm sure that's going to come. We have talked to so many people just from that side of things that it took them 15 years, 10, 15, 20 years before they talk to someone else on any level about a tragedy that happened. So I think that when you're ready to do that, there's a bunch of people out there who would be more than happy to kind of give their guidance, and whenever you're ready to do it, and they get that too. Yeah.
I appreciate that. It's nice to be able to share stories with people and kind of help, I went through this, or I didn't, that would be nice.
Yeah. And I'm just thinking about CrimeCon. That was my first thought, was because the past, I think 3 years or 2 years now. No, I think 3 years. They've started a support group for family members, survivors, family members of victims. And they did it the first year. I think it was 3 years ago. And it was such an amazing thing. We weren't a part of it, of course, but we were with other people who were a part of it. And they went into a separate suite in the hotel, and they spent over almost 2 hours, this group of people, and all of them had never gotten together in that context before. And it had been people who have, it's been 40 years for some people, 5 years, 10 years, and they all walked out, and you could just see this relief on their face.
That's really awesome.
Yeah. So all I'm doing is my long way of saying you're in a community that will be open and welcoming for whenever you're ready. And you
Okay.
made a pretty amazing docuseries.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
Now, were you surprised? This is both to Carrie and Jane. Were you surprised that Kathy doesn't think that Richard Allen committed the murders?
I don't know if surprise would be the word. Um, I don't know how I would feel if it were my husband. Personally, I can't imagine sleeping with a man, laying next to a man, seeing him every single day and not knowing that that was him. Denial is very, very strong. But that's, I can't speak for her. I feel for her. I really do. I can't imagine what she has gone through. But I firmly believe he's guilty. They got the right guy. He's sitting where he needs to be. And I hope that someday she'll come to that realization as well. Otherwise, I mean, maybe ignorance is bliss and she'll be fine without ever acknowledging that. But I can't wrap my head around it.
And I can't say I was surprised, but I guess I always knew from the time I started digging in that that's where she stood.
Right. Now, what about the supporters of Richard Allen who are more random, I guess? Like, how frustrating is that to see? There's like a free Richard Allen sort of group that kind of builds and who really don't think he had anything to do with the crimes.
I think me personally, I know that mistakes happen. I know that the way I feel, I would want someone, if I felt that someone was wrongly convicted, I would want them to have a support system and have, resources to be able to help them to overturn a wrongful conviction, right? I don't believe that's this case. I mean, from the second I saw Richard Allen's face, it kind of filled in Bridge Guy for me. I felt instantly sick and knew that he was the guy. That's me. I can't speak for anyone else. I kept that to myself and kept my mind open as far as, innocent until proven guilty, but I feel 100% he was proven guilty. He was proven to be the man on the bridge, and we know that the man on the bridge is the one who killed my daughter. I just feel like someone is, I don't know how I would react in that situation. I feel like I would know that that was my husband up there. I would have to come to terms with that. And I just don't think she's done that yet. But I'd like to think that deep down she knows and is just in denial. Because I wouldn't want to believe that my husband did something like that. I wouldn't want to believe that I'd known this man and just kind of not even caught on to what was going on. But I also questioned what she really did know. So I don't know about that. I thought for a really long time I gave her the benefit of the doubt, but now I'm just, how could you not know? So, and those are questions I'll probably never have the answers to, unfortunately.
I find it really remarkable that you said that you just knew when you saw Richard Allen and you just had this feeling, you had this like sickening feeling. Were you prepared for that? I mean, you couldn't have been, right? That's incredible.
I mean, I don't think anything really could prepare me or anyone else for that first moment. I knew in my mind and have known for a long time that when I saw him or felt for a long time that when I did see this person that I would know that it was him. I consider myself intuitive, to a point, can read people. And when I got the phone call that there had been an arrest made and then later saw a picture of him, a feeling came over. I was physically ill. And like seeing his face, it just clicked. So no, I wasn't prepared for it, but I kind of knew that when I did see the person that I would know. And I did. I mean, I really did truly felt that we've got him. Like chills all up and down, like sick to my stomach. Honestly knew that they got him. Now, again, innocent until proven guilty. I was not going around saying we got him, we got him, we got him. But once the evidence was out there, absolutely, it just confirmed what I already knew.
Did anybody else in your family or your close circle feel the same way when they first saw him?
I mean, I think so. I don't know that we ever specifically talked about it, but I believe so. I mean, I can tell you that there's not anybody that I speak to personally, like family-wise, that would say they got the wrong guy. So, I mean, maybe we're a little biased, but I mean, law enforcement, throughout the trial, it proved to me time and time again that we got the guy.
Yeah. Did you ever see him around town or in public or anything like that?
Me personally, no. Where I live in Kentucky, so I haven't lived in Delphi in over 20 years. My family, though, people that I know in the community, other people in Libby's family, I mean, they were all right there. CVS, pretty popular place in the middle of town. It's the only place to get your prescriptions filled. So yeah, my family ran into him. I would say pretty much everybody we know had seen him at some point or another.
Did anyone have weird feelings about him before he was arrested?
I mean, I don't know, honestly, because I don't think anybody knew who he was. My mom and I actually talked about this the other day about how, when you see somebody in a different setting, you don't tend to recognize them. Like if my kids saw one of their teachers at Walmart, it's weird, right? They're not in their element. They're not exactly how you expect to see them. And I kind of feel like that, get that same sense. Like if he was walking around town in his blue Carhartt jacket and jeans, walking the same way, people would have noticed that. But you put him in his CVS work uniform, put him behind the counter at CVS or at a pool table even, didn't quite look the same. So yeah, maybe people thought that something was a little off, but they weren't quite getting it. But had he went back out there to the bridge, or had he been wearing the same clothes all over town, I think somebody would have been like, oh, wait a minute. And I can't say that nobody turned in a tip on him. There were thousands and thousands and thousands of tips. Someone may have called a tip in and they didn't quite pan out. I don't know. I know that anytime after the fact, being in the same room with him, it was hard to breathe in the same room with him. I feel like if I'd have seen him at CVS, if I had been there, if I had lived in town and was walking the streets, maybe I would have recognized him, but who knows? Who knows? I certainly can't be mad at somebody for not recognizing or not noticing. When he was hiding in plain sight, he knew what he was doing. To some extent, felt like he was comfortable. He'd gotten away with it for as long as he had.
What kind of emotional roller coaster was it? It must have been an incredible emotional roller coaster when they made the correction about the sketch.
Oh my gosh. I still don't really understand all of that, to be honest. We had been looking, we had the original sketch one for 2 years, 2.5 years. And then for this second sketch to come out, yeah, it was kind of mind-boggling. Again, frustration would not probably be the word, but it was pretty awful. I can't say that my faith in law enforcement at that point was very high. And it was kind of do they really know what they're doing? What is going on?
Yeah, I remember seeing that moment. I think Tim and I had conversations between each other and other true crime content people, some of our colleagues, where we were just like, is this intentional? Or do they not know what they're doing? Like, was it intentional that they put out something so completely off for so long so that they could, I don't know, maybe like spring a trap or something? Was it to mislead intentionally, or was it actually like wrong? And I think our next thought was like, this must be awful for the family. And I couldn't even imagine how like just confusing that is.
It was, yeah. a roller coaster of emotions very quickly. Anger, like confusion, like I really don't even have words. I don't have words. It was awful.
Did they apologize or did they acknowledge it to the families, to you?
I don't remember it as an apology. It was just kind of like, we're going with the information as we have it. And, this is like the investigation is very organic and it just kind of grows and changes. And we just got to go with what we've got because we got to find this guy, we got to figure this out. So I think at a certain point, and I'm just speaking from my own opinions because I don't know really what their thought process was. But I would like to think that they had these sketches and they came out, they were drawn relatively close in time. They weren't the second sketch wasn't drawn 2 years later. Those sketches came out, were drawn at the same time or around the same time, right? Early on in the investigation. Why they chose one over the other to initially put out there, I don't know. Now I have feelings about those sketches. I feel like if you look at them, they're a younger and older version of the same person.
It's a great point. Yeah.
If you overlay them, they're almost identical, literally a younger and an older version. I mean, there's been a lot of talk about why. I think Becky once said something along the lines of when an older person sees someone, they may describe them as looking older, whereas a younger person sees them, they may describe them as looking younger, putting their own filter, their own spin on things, their own interpretation. And maybe that was kind of why there was a younger looking and an older looking version of the same person. Now, again, that's my opinion. I'm not in law enforcement. I'm not involved in the investigation, but that's very much what I thought, that you could literally put it. I mean, it raised a lot of questions, but to me, it was literally a younger and an older version of the same person.
And we'll be right back after a quick word from our sponsors.
Thanks to our sponsors, and now we're back to the program. It was really interesting in the docuseries hearing the phone calls between Alan and his wife and even seeing some of the interrogation footage. Jane, what was that like in, I guess, getting use of those? And Carrie, what was it like to see that?
So when we started, those materials hadn't been released yet, and like Dateline and us and others were trying to get them released, and then they did. And from where I sit, you kind of can't look away in that, like, what is happening right now? Like it's just you're a fly on the wall in this scene that you've been curious about for a while. So we were, I mean, as filmmakers, we were glad we were able to include them. And deciding what to use was challenging as well, because obviously we can't play them all.
Was that hard to watch, Carrie, or hear those calls?
No, we didn't get to see or hear any of that before the trial. So sitting in trial was the first time we actually heard. I had never even heard his voice, I don't think, prior to the trial. He didn't speak at any of the hearings that we were at. Seeing those videos for the first time, the interrogation, hearing the recordings of his phone calls, it was rather chilling, honestly, because it all of a sudden that was more of the voice saying DTH. I'd never heard his voice, and it was absolute confirmation for me to hear his voice and to hear the things he was saying. And it was sickening. Now, honestly, I wish I could hear them all. I would sit and listen to every single word he said. But I think the things that he was saying are actually very telling. He admitted to what he did multiple times, and his family did not want to listen to it. I can't imagine how frustrating that must have been. Knowing in his head that he's done this, he's finally going to come clean, he's finally going to tell his wife, and she doesn't believe him. That would make me go crazy. No, well, I'm trying to do the right thing here, and my own family doesn't believe me. Yeah, it was hard to see those things, but it just confirmed more for me that we were on the right track and that he was the killer.
And overall, the experience producing and being a part of this docuseries, it obviously isn't going to give you any closure. I mean, that's a ridiculous thing for me to say, but does it give you some sense of a chapter has been closed and you can move on? Like, does this story, the way it's being told out there now in these 3 episodes, is that some sort of like, okay, I can put a pin in this and move on?
To some extent, yeah. I mean, I feel like we're putting the whole story out there now, right? Like, we've done documentaries before, we've done podcasts and different stories before where we weren't able to tell the whole story because we didn't have the whole story, right? Now we have maybe 95% of the story. I think there are still things we don't know. I mean, things we'll probably never know, but at least we have more of the entire story, more of the, I wouldn't say it's closure by any means. Knowing the story and knowing that an arrest has been, that a conviction has been made, and God willing, he's not getting out. He's not going through the appeals process, whatever, but he knows what he did, and I think that he's where he's supposed to be. So I mean, I feel kind of like it's not really closure, but yeah, an end of a chapter. Maybe starting a whole new book, right? Like, we want to go on and be as happy as we can be and live as normal of lives as we can and heal what is literally generational trauma. These are things that, like, my daughters are having children and their kids are going to at some point see this and know that their aunt was more than just this tragedy, right? We're not just talking about their killer and what happened to them, but that they were, even 13 and 14-year-olds had, full lives, happy lives. And hopefully that can heal down the road what our family is still struggling with, Does that make sense?
That made perfect sense. That I was on every word. Yeah, that was great. That made a lot of sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And so what is next for both of you in your journeys? Carrie, healing, I'm sure, is ahead of you, and Jane, I'm just curious if you have any other productions or anything like that.
We've got some things in the works, and continuing to find stories that matter and that make people talk.
And for me, I think I'm just focused on living life and trying to heal. My 2 youngest girls, I've got a senior in high school starting next week. Alexis moves on and she's going to be a freshman in college also next week. Got grandbabies that I'm so super proud of, and I, want to be able to spend time with and see and snuggle. So we're just trying to live a normal life, as much as we can after the fact. We want Libby to be proud and be able to look down and be proud of us. So that's where we're at.
Thanks a lot for listening. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And please follow us on social media at Missing CSM. We'll be back next week with another new episode.